34-14 was the final score in this one after, some frustrating, I think, last couple of weeks for the Seattle Seahawks, right? You lose the New York Giants, you lose to your rival, the San Francisco 49ers. It was great for them to go into Atlanta and get a big-time road win there. Let's look at the top 5 graded players for Seattle here. Edge rusher Derek Hall with an 87.8 overall grade. Kenneth Walker, their running back, an equal 87.7 there. Wide receiver DK Metcalf with an 80.6. Safety Julian Love a 79.1. And then wide receiver Tyler Lockett with a 77.8. Geno Smith in this game had some monster throws, but a 69.3 overall grade is what it all came out to be for Atlanta. Their defensive tackle and their veteran on their defense, Grady Jarrett, an 89.1. Bijan Robinson, the running back, 84.0. Guard Matthew Bergeron earned an 81.9. Arnold Ebiketie, their edge rusher, was the top edge rusher in this one, 78.9. And then guard Chris Lidstrom with a 77.9. Kirk Cousins in this game, 54.9. We're going to talk about Kirk Cousins a little bit more in a second, but stat that told the story. What do we got here?
For me, it actually is Kirk Cousins, and I'm very in between on his season right now and where it has been and where it's going. On one hand, they might not have any wins without him, right? You had the comeback against the Eagles, you had the comeback against the Falcons, you had one against the Bucks,
and they were very
against the Saints. Sorry,
and they were very vintage how a veteran of Kirk Cousins would win you that game.
Right.
Yes.
The problem is they are just. Their passing game isn't all that consistent. There's a couple of things that concern me with Cousins right now. What's weird? He has, I just saw the 11th or 12th best passing grade in the league. He has 3 big-time throws and 14 turnover-worthy plays.
Yeah.
Which feels odd. And I think the 3 big-time throws thing gets me a little bit because I'm watching this game. I'm watching the Falcons offense in this game, and I go, where is the downfield? When are we going to get downfield? Is it Drake London? Maybe just throw him a jump ball like the Steelers did with George Pickens. Is it Darnell Mooney taking off on him? Is it Kyle Pitts working something, a corner route or something? And there's just nothing happening down the field. And you look at, I just want to focus on the first 3 quarters because once they had the scoop and score, the Seahawks, and they were up by 20, then they started throwing downfield because what do you got to lose? First 3 quarters of this game, they have one explosive pass play, and that was a swing route to Bijan Robinson. He took 30 yards after the catch. 5-yard average depth of target in the first 3 quarters, and he only threw 2 passes, 10 or more yards down the field. In the first 3 quarters of this game, 1 for 2 for 11 yards on 10-plus yard throws. So I'm sitting here going, are the Falcons generally... Are they just not explosive? Is this what we're doing now? Because he's only got 3 big-time throws now in, 7 games, and they're not working the ball downfield at all. You can feel them playing in this box because the run game has gotten going. So I looked into this, 10-plus yard throws, all right? In their 4 wins, Kirk Cousins is 32 for 54 on 10-plus yard throws with a 91.1 passing grade. In their 3 losses, he's 11 of 28 with a 56.2. The difference in this football team is whether or not Kirk Cousins can get the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And right now, in a game like this, and against a good secondary in Seattle, right? Generally, at least it's supposed to be with Witherspoon and Woolen and Julian Love playing well and all those guys. I could feel it in the first 3 quarters. I'm like, this is so dink and dunk. And the run game, again, Bijan played well in this game. The run game was working. The run blocking has been better the last couple of weeks, but you cannot, just like the Steelers with Justin Fields and what they had going on, you can't live in this 10-yard box. You can't do it. And if Kirk Cousins, he's got to start pushing the ball down the field because did he do it in the 4th quarter? Sure. Threw a couple picks. Really didn't matter. They were down 20 at that point. If you can't push the ball downfield early in games and threaten teams and threaten safeties, what does it matter? It is so hard to go 70, 75, 80 yards when you're just going 5 yards at a time and you're not even trying to work it downfield when you've got Kyle Pitts, who is supposed to be making plays downfield. Drake London can make plays downfield. Darnell Mooney's got enough speed to make plays, right? We have seen a clear-cut line. If they can get the ball vertically down the field and they can make big plays, they will win. And if they don't, they're going to look like this because they're just so in this bubble right now where they're not even threatening it. He threw 2 balls past 10 air yards in the first 3 quarters of this game. It's not going to get it done.
And it felt like everything else was there, right? Like, to your point, you've got Bijan Robinson over 100 yards, 4.9 yards per carry average and a touchdown in this one. Tyler Algier, 7.2 yards per carry in this game. Like, you ran the ball the way that you wanted to. The next part was just complementing it with a passing attack that had something deep down the field. I mean, you are completely correct, and the numbers are not good enough. This season overall, I would say passing the ball 10 or more yards down the field. It wasn't just in this game. Anytime that they have been passing at 10 or more yards, 54.2 passing grade. The two, and in this game specifically, the 2 interceptions that you mentioned, the turnover-worthy plays, 0 big-time throws. So to me, it is like, I think we do need to start really talking about exactly how you set this up. Maybe they don't have a couple of those wins without Kirk Cousins. But is he the best quarterback on the roster at this point?
I think you still have to say yes. Because
I think you do too. But how much longer can you go? They did everything they wanted to do on offense at home, Dalton, and scored 14 points.
Right. But this is a hard one because they are a small handful of plays from being 1-6. The Carolina game was the only one that they really definitively won without a last 2-minute miracle. And it's great to win close games. Look, you've got a team like the Falcons winning their close games, and you've got a team like the Jets losing theirs, right? It is that small a margin of error. I just worry about, you're right, because what does Michael Penix do? What did he do at Washington? He threw the ball downfield. They threw the deep ball more than anybody. He's at least going to threaten it when you give him a chance to, right? The combination of Cousins, this being such a clear line between their success and their failure, working the ball downfield, and the fact that he only has 3 big-time throws, I don't know if it's the Achilles and the health. I don't know if he's just not willing. Maybe they're not separating downfield, or even maybe they're just not calling the downfield concepts that they should early in these games, but it would help their offense. It does. We've seen it, actually. I shouldn't even say that. It does help their offense in their 4 wins when they can work the ball vertically. They succeed because they're balanced. They're balanced in the way that some other teams aren't. We always talk about balance being, you need the run game to support the pass game, but you got to get people out of this box because it's very hard when everyone knows that you're gonna only throw the ball 5 yards, or you're only gonna work 4 or 5 yards at a time. When everyone knows it,
Seahawks were ready for it.
Right,
they were extremely ready for it.
They knew that you could see it. They knew that if we sit back and just make him complete pass after pass after pass, we'll just make a play eventually. We'll get there.
It's not even, and my stat that told the story here has to do with the Seattle Seahawks pass rush, because I think that they dug into the numbers and realized that a lot of those turnover-worthy plays come when Cousins is pressured. And normally when we think of Kirk Cousins, we think, okay, veteran guy, he can handle pressure pretty well. He has been able to do so in the past.
Can't move.
He is tied for the league lead in turnover-worthy plays when pressured. It's him and it's Jalen Hurts. And he threw another turnover-worthy play when pressured this week. Seahawks pass rush, 71.8 pass rush grade as a team. You know, the Falcons offensive line, they're not really able to block in the passing game as well as they are to move, as well as they can, move people in the run game. Seahawks defensive line, 3 sacks in this one, 20 pressures, 38.5 pass rush win rate. And so I really do believe that Mike Macdonald looked at this situation and he said, okay, here's how we're going to win this game. We are going to say, beat us deep. Throw it deep down the field. You'll have the opportunity to do so. And let's pressure the crap out of them. That's exactly what they probably played a little bit close. I haven't seen every single defensive snap, but I got to imagine what they did is they probably played close and they probably threw a lot of stuff at the offensive line. And Kirk was not able to beat them. And so I'm not saying, hey, let's go to Michael Penix, who did play in this game sort of in garbage time. I'm not saying let's go to Michael Penix now for the Atlanta Falcons. All I'm saying is that what we are talking about are little breadcrumbs that lead us down the path to get there. Because that is really, I think there are plenty of times when we ask for quarterback changes and it's like, okay, what's the other guy going to change? Show me something statistically, analytically, data-wise, the player performance that would make this switch warranted. And I think sometimes we just go, this guy just stinks, and it's like, let's throw the other guy out there. This is actually a tangible thing when you look at Michael Penix as somebody who, throwing it deep down the field was not an issue for him last year.
And he's more mobile than Kirk. You know, he got criticized for some lack of mobility, and then he went out there, put at his pro day and ran a 4.5. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, I think Cousins' only answer to pressure is get rid of the ball before it gets here, right? It's kind of the same way as Aaron Rodgers now that he's not as mobile as he used to be, both off the Achilles, of course, where it's like, okay, he's not going to escape. He doesn't have escape in him. So he either gets rid of the ball, usually to some sort of hot read or something 4 or 5 yards down the field. And honestly, from what I saw, the Seahawks, they may have been sending that pressure and still playing soft coverage. Because then all you have to do is just not get beat after the catch. Why make a mistake and press? against a Drake London who could beat you like that, don't give him a chance to throw a jump ball and don't give him a chance to escape because he really can't. This is a dangerous combination for the Falcons, and I think it's going to be worth watching week to week. I think we're going to start saying this a lot of weeks where it's like, did they make explosive plays down the field? Did they have time to get the ball downfield? Or is this really going to be a dink and dunk offense? Or are they just going to keep playing the game because I think Seattle did a good job too. We mentioned all the comebacks that they've had so far in Atlanta. Seattle did a really good job putting them away. Right, and I think that plays in part into your pass rush thing. When you get ahead, anytime you get ahead of a team, you can pin your ears back, put them away, and Cousins can't have that miracle 2-minute drive.
Yeah, my most impressive in this game, I'll switch over to the Seattle Seahawks side of things. It's DK Metcalf, 7 targets, 4 catches, 99 yards in this game before getting a little banged up. 90.4 receiving grade versus single coverage in this one. That's what I love so much about the Seattle Seahawks offense. Yeah, you got Tyler Lockett. Yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba's kind of coming along. You got Kenneth Walker to be able to use out of the backfield as a rusher or a receiver. But when Geno Smith gets that look in his eyes and he's like, all right, it's time to open it up, let's rip it, he can throw it to a player who's open even when he's not open. And those are special wide receivers. And Metcalf is one of those guys who's open even when he's not. And you could tell that by the grade in single coverage and his consistent contested catch ability. He was also one of the highest graded players that I mentioned when it came to those passes 20 or more yards down the field that I was chatting about with George Pickens. It's the same thing here with DK Metcalf and the success that you can have, and him and Geno have a good one here. Most impressive, and then real quick, most disappointing before we move on.
I'll go in the run game first. Most impressive. I thought, especially through the first 2.5 or so quarters in this game, that Kenneth Walker was really good. I mean, I think getting the balance out of this offense that you mentioned, likes to throw it deep. They want to throw it deep. That's the goal. But to get the balance from Walker, I thought he ran really hard. 93 total yards, 6 more missed tackles forced. 2 touchdowns. It was a terrific touchdown catch he had on a wheel in the third quarter. I mean, I think when you get more of this out of Walker, again, this is kind of what we've been asking more for from Seattle the last few weeks, right? I think, what was it? They only called 7 run plays against the Giants. You have talented backs. I know the offensive line is kind of a work in progress. We're putting it together. You got Stone Forsythe at right tackle. There's some other issues up front, but you still have to try to do these things because you got 2 really good players in the backfield, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Walker was the best one in this game, 87.8 overall grade. He was terrific. And then I like what you mentioned about their passing game and even Ryan Grubb, their offensive coordinator. The one thing I always loved about that offense that they had at Washington was they create those one-on-one matchups down the field. And if you give them time to get on your safeties, that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare for a defense because it's an offense that's really good at isolating safeties in coverage. And my most disappointing guy, it's a rough game. We know he's maybe even a borderline Hall of Famer one day. Justin Simmons had a rough one. He did. Look, he gave up, I believe it was 5 catches. The long touchdown late in the second quarter, right before halftime, was big. They got somebody, I think it was Metcalf, isolated on him for that touchdown. Mm-hmm. You just had in the Falcons secondary, especially with their lack of pass rush. They did get 1 sack in this game, which for them feels like a lot. But it was a struggle for Justin Simmons and the rest of the guys in that secondary, especially down the middle of the field, because you do have an offense that when they have time in the pocket, they get on safeties. Geno's a terrific deep ball thrower when he gets there. And I thought Geno's pocket movement in this game was really good. This was as good as he's looked in several weeks. They need to save this tape somewhere right front and center because this is how their offense is supposed to look.